tonight. I'd like to, with my fellow council members, ask everybody to stand and pledge to the flag. Dale, if you could take care of the roll call, please.
Council President Haley.
Here.
Council Vice President Collins.
Here.
Councilman DeCruz.
Here.
Councilwoman Gledhill.
Here.
Councilman Bailey.
Here.
All members present.
Item number 4, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the work session of September 25th and the regular session of September 25th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Before that, I would ask Liz.
Yep. I'd like to make a motion to remove from the consent agenda Creighton Company DBA Sweet Cakes Bakery under item A.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And with that being said, now do we have an approval of the remaining items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's move on.
Now you want to take up sweet cake?
Oh, yeah, how do you, okay. Well,
Under 6A, third one down.
Creighton Company. Make a motion to approve agenda, third item on the 6A that was taken off the consent agenda. Creighton Company, DBA Sweet Cakes Bakery, 1227 Kingstown Road, Peacedale, application by James Creighton, 351 North Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I know we have,
I will recuse myself from
Recuse.
voting on this.
okay. Moving forward, let's move on to item number 7A. This will be a public hearing to consider a proposed adoption of the new police department standing order relative to weapons, caliber, ammunition, and safety, and proposed amendments to standing orders relative to use of force, OC spray, police baton, conducted electrical weapons, and vehicular pursuit as shown in Exhibit 1 here on the agenda. Chief?
Good evening. Joe Jaber, Chief of Police in South Kingstown. As we spoke earlier, the police department is working towards accreditation. Numerous standing orders and policies need to be added or updated. The town charter requires standing orders vetted through the town council with a public hearing, which is why we are here tonight. Before you, you have these 6 amended policies that the police department has been working on for several months with the help of Sergeant Gardner, who is spearheaded the operation. We have all gone through extensive review of the Rhode Island, using the Rhode Island Police Accreditation Commission standards and Rhode Island interlocal model trust policies, along with negotiating with the union to get their participation in the policies, which they have done. The first of the 6 policies, lethal and less than lethal force, this policy sets out the different types of force used by police officers and not necessarily the order that they are used in, but when they can be used. In other words, you wouldn't be able to use lethal force, obviously, for every confrontation. But it sets out for the officers when they can use what type of policy, but nothing is perfect, nothing is black and white when you're out there on the road. The next 3 policies pretty much are a less than lethal force type of force. The first one is OC spray, which is better known as pepper spray, the police baton, and the taser. These policies set out procedures for police officers to follow, when to use the taser, when to use the baton, or when to use the OC spray, and when not to use those. Some of the things that would be considered in the taser would be someone under 80 pounds, someone that the police officer knows is in poor health. The OC spray pretty much is used to control someone who is just out of control. The OC spray, there are certain restrictions on that. If someone is arrested for driving under the influence, using the OC spray could have an effect on the breathalyzer reading, so you wouldn't be able to use it in that case. The police baton normally used certain areas that you could use the police baton. The policy denotes what locations on the body you could use the baton if you have to use it, and what locations you should not use it on. Obviously, the head or the neck area. Excuse me. The fifth policy that you have in front of you is the on- and off-duty weapons and ammunition used. The standard duty weapon for South Kingstown Police is the P226-357. That's the handgun. The rifle is regulated to a .223. That's the caliber of the rifle. And a 12-gauge shotgun is also allowed by policy. Police officers have to qualify with all of these weapons before they take them out and bring them with them. Also, it covers off-duty caliber weapons that the police officers can use. They also must be qualified with whatever weapon they carry off-duty. The final policy, the pursuit policy, reviews when an officer should pursue a vehicle and when he should not. A lot of this would depend on that person that the officer decides to chase, or whether or not to pursue that person, is what crime was involved and the danger that person may cause toward police officers or innocent bystanders or other vehicles on the road. So, in other words, if the vehicle takes off and the operator is obviously dangerous, driving on the wrong side of the road, intoxicated, then it would behoove the officer to try and stop that vehicle. As I said earlier, pursuits are a no-win situation. They never end well, but there are those limited situations where an officer has to do his best to try to stop that vehicle so there aren't more injuries. Very, very few times that happens, but it does happen. So those are the few of the high points of those policies. I gave a quick overview of those, and if you read them, they're a lot more extensive than that. But I tried to give an overview of what they're all about. And this is only a fraction of what's coming, so there are many more. So I'll answer any questions.
Are these a significant departure from the standing orders that are already in use?
No, they haven't changed much in several years, and these are the model policies probably used by, I would guess, 90% of the police departments not only in the state, but probably in the country.
I think the most change that's there is greater definition. So you're defining each and every aspect of it. You're also providing what the implications are in terms of use of those different types of force. And third, probably most important, to be able to have after-incident reports so they can be properly evaluated to say, is this the best way of going? So you've got all of those as definitions, where I think that the general theme was there, but the defined detailed language that we have today was not there.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that we have a history of showing sort of restraint in our department. I don't remember seeing a lot of incidents where lethal force was exercised or, anything in the news about overuse of force. Do you think that that's pretty accurate, that, our department seems to be really well trained on this and shows restraint?
Yes, we don't have a lot of those incidents. As Steve mentioned, we do have a use of force report that I didn't mention, that after an officer uses his OC spray or his baton or his taser, he's required to fill out a report, use of force report. So we keep a record of those.
Good.
But there aren't many.
And is there something in place for officers who do have to use lethal force, to some sort of mental health or counseling for after those incidents, that might be considered traumatic?
Yes, we do, but I can't give you the exact. We do have people that we can contact for that type of follow-up for a police officer that may use deadly force.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I can't give you the exact.
No. I just want to make sure there was some sort of policy.
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
I guess I read through the binder, if you will, that we get about everything from speeding tickets to robberies to, domestic abuse situations. We do have a very low correlation of crime. So, hats off to you for the policy, because it really, in my mind, after reading the binder that we receive on an annual basis, we really don't have a lot of incidents that we've really heard about that have to be very aggressive situations. Probably very limited.
Thankfully. And these policies are what help protect the police department and the citizens in the event of a lawsuit.
Chief, I just had one quick question. When it comes to personal weapons, I remember friends of mine telling me they carry them so that they can respond, like in Providence, as an example, if there's an issue. So how does that work in South Kingstown? Like, I see that it's optional to carry.
Yes, you're a police officer 24 hours a day, but there are times when police off-duty do not carry weapons. There are times when they do. And what I would always recommend to officers is not to carry an off-duty weapon if you're going out, say, to a wedding or something like that, where you may have a couple of drinks. So there are situations, although they are police officers, that they're better off leaving their weapon at home. But yes, on-duty, off-duty police officers normally will carry a weapon, but not all the time.
Right. And is there a jurisdiction thing, or like, let's say I'm a police officer in South Kingstown, but I'm in Pawtucket, as an example. They can respond to an issue, or?
There are mutual agreement policies. It wouldn't necessarily be with Pawtucket, but if you are a police officer in the state of Rhode Island, you are qualified to be and have passed all the qualifications, and you are a police officer. I have heard, and I think there is a statute that covers that if you do make an arrest, say in Pawtucket, that you can make the arrest and wait for the police officer, on-duty police officers, to show up, and then he would use you to make a statement as to the DUI or whatever it might be. Okay. We have mutual agreements with Narragansett and Charleston where we can just follow someone over the line. We could follow someone over the line. We've had situations where we have a drunk driver. We can pursue them over the line and make the arrest because we're still in Washington County. But everything's questionable. Everything's challengeable, as Jeff does.
Joe, I just have one more question. Do we have dash cams in our police cruisers?
No.
No. Is that a move that you think will ever go in that sort of direction, or do you not see a need for it?
I think a lot of that is federal money. I don't see a need for it. We really haven't had a problem with that. I know that Providence just instituted that. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
Okay.
Joe, I just want to thank you and your staff. Highly detailed, a lot of work, a lot of good work here, and
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, and I will pass that on.
And before we open this up to the public, again, thank you. And I know Sergeant Gardner is here tonight. I also want to Thank you very much on behalf of the town and the council for your hard work in bringing this information forward. It was extremely helpful. You guys did a really good job, really good.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'd like to open it up if there are any comments from the public who would like to come up and speak to this public hearing. Seeing none, are there any more questions or comments from the council?
No, I just echo the same gratitude and make a motion to close the public hearing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And motion to approve
7A.
7A as presented in the exhibit.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, seeing no abstentions or oppositions, the motion carries. That moves us to item number 9, comments from interested citizens. The floor will now be open to people who would like to come up and speak. I would ask that respectfully you come up to the podium and give your name, and we welcome the opportunity to hear from you.
Hello again. My name is Kenny Burke, 28 South Glen Court. I had sent an email in just a few days ago. Actually, I believe it was could have been yesterday. This is in regard to the Invenergy power plant project in Burrville, Rhode Island. There is an active move by some folks in the Narragansett tribe to export water out of the Wood-Pawcatuck watershed, which provides water for all of South County. All of the major water supplies in South County are groundwater systems. This is a disastrous move by the tribe, and I don't mean to demonize the tribe. Any export of water out of this sole source aquifer, it could be very detrimental to not only the local water supply in Charlestown, and there's a series of very small water supply systems, but also downstream in other neighboring communities. And over long term, we're really not sure what the impacts will be upstream, where South Kingstown provides water not only for its residents here, but also for the town of Narragansett, and as you know, in the University of Rhode Island. I'd respectfully request that the town staff take a strong look at this proposal, which I understand unfortunately is being discussed tonight at a public hearing in Burrville, and act accordingly to protect your water supplies and your environment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from the audience? Would you like to come up and speak?
Let me comment on that.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
There's really a couple of things that need to be looked at. The Chapuxet flows are a sub-basin of the Wood-Pawcatuck. Therefore, there really isn't any specific impact to South Kingstown or the wells that service South Kingstown and Narragansett or the university, because we would be upstream of the Wood-Pawcatuck to begin with. So if in fact the town wanted to take the posture that they were opposed to the 15 to 18,000 gallons a day being transported outside of the aquifer area itself, they would need to do it based on support for those communities that would be impacted by the loss of the water, such as Charleston. Because we couldn't make the statement that it impacts South Kingstown because it doesn't impact South Kingstown directly. What impacts South Kingstown is loss of water from our South County watershed itself. So I don't disagree at all with the fact that Charleston wants to challenge and should challenge the fact that that water would be part of an agreement to deal with the Burrville plant. But the town can't be in a position to say that it impacts South Kingstown. What it needs to do, if it was going to take any posture on this at all, would be to recognize the concerns from neighboring communities within that watershed. So there's a difference here that, and the other thing too is I just want to get to make sure you understand the practical. The agreement calls for between 15,800 gallons a day. This is if in fact they were called on, up to 18,720 gallons a day. That works out to between 11 gallons and 13 gallons a minute. Our wells pump in the 500 to 1,000 gallons a day or minute. So there's a difference as far as the volumes that we're talking about. I don't disagree with Ken one bit that any loss of water from that aquifer needs to be recognized as not in South County's best interest. But we can't recognize it because of direct impact on South Kingstown. That's the only point I want to make.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments? Anybody else from the audience like to come up and speak at this time?
I do want to mention that Mr. Impagliazzo is here tonight. John, did you want to speak? If you recall, Council, at last council meeting, we brought Mr. Impagliazzo's letter forward to you, and the council referred it to the town's traffic committee. I'm not sure where, if there's other information John wants to present this evening, but this would be the time.
John, please just state your name. We know who you are, but for the record.
My name is John Impagliazzo. I live at 2 Kimberly Drive. I've been a resident of South Kingston for approximately 35 years. At the last meeting, okay, we brought up the subject of the Narragansett East traffic and the fatality, the pedestrian fatality that occurred in August. Since then, I've talked to my neighbors in Narragansett, Mr. Carl Sigler, who took up a petition in Narragansett because they're also concerned about the safety of that road. And I thought he'd be here tonight, but he did say that he approved a copy of his petition to a Captain John Chung in the South Kingston Police Station. Is it?
Joe.
Could be Chow, yes. He's a captain, okay? But they did provide that, and they were concerned. And I'd also like to point out, Lynn Kidd stood up to speak last session because she has a disabled child. She lives in the corner of Narragansett East and Border, and I don't know if you dealt with disabled children. I volunteered to work with them at New England Disabled Sports for the last 9 years, and they're kind of unpredictable. You know, sometimes they play a game that, you know, getting away is part of the game. And when I teach snowboarding, I've had that happen, and I have to call in what they call a huckleberry, and we have 250 coaches trying to find the kid because he ends up lost. So, you know, they can disappear on you. There's a disabled child on Kimberly Drive also. And starting next September, my neighbor has a 5-year-old who will be starting kindergarten. So she'll be out there waiting for a school bus at the corner, or I'm not sure exactly where it goes, but John and Julia live right next door to me, so it would probably be right at the school bus. That's where it's been in the past. So there are those concerns. Now, I did talk, since then, I did call John Schock, okay, and talk to him about the sidewalks. He is concerned because of the wetlands that might be affected if we put in the sidewalks. I called DEM, and they referred me to Bob Paquette, and we discussed this, and he said, essentially, the first 6 feet on the side of the road belongs to the state. I contacted a friend of mine who retired a few years ago from DEM and asked him what's involved. And he said, essentially, if the town is paying for it to put in the sidewalks, okay, all you need to do is apply for a permit. You can apply for a permit from DEM, or a permit from the Department of Transportation. Okay? They're just concerned, that the runoff the changes are not going to make a problem in the runoff. Now, in this particular area between Kimberly and the town line, there is somewhat of a problem at this time. But continuing the sidewalks on the north side of the street is not going to contribute to the problem, because right now the water is ponding on the south side. Every time it rains, it will puddle up there, and the water is running off from the north side. And adding a sidewalk or widening the shoulder, okay, shouldn't be that difficult. I mean, we have drainage tiles all the way up Narragansett East. Adding one or two more at this point should not be an exorbitant expense. Now, I note that Mr. Schock in his memo to the town council pointed out that was a factor for the community budget, but I'm not sure how much it would cost. But if there is an expense, I'm sure that it would be reasonable. I mean, there was a substantial expense when Dale Collier Corner was re-engineered following the pedestrian fatality there. Okay, I don't expect this is going to be anywhere near that, and I'm sure that some of that expense was picked up by the state. But the town did participate in that, and this is a similar case. Right, Joe?
No, John, we did not participate. That was totally a state project.
All right. Well, it still shouldn't be an exorbitant expense to add the sidewalks. You add the sidewalks down to Kimberly, okay? Going across, it may or may not require a curb. But that's up to Mr. Schock and his design engineers to prepare a reasonable design, apply for the permit, and submit it to the state or the DEM, whoever requires it. The other thing we talked about was the stop signs. And in regard to the stop signs, I did talk to a friend of mine, the same gentleman I referred to on the sidewalks and the permits, and he suggested that I take a look at the warrants that are invoked. Now, I had received like 3 letters from Bill Boardman, 2001, 2002, 2003, and one of the common elements in these letters is that he explains that Chapter 4, where it describes the 8 warrants for a stop sign, okay, are actually for traffic signals, for a traffic light. But they are extended for an all-way stop. Now, adding a stop sign to River Heights and Border Avenue is not going to make it an all-way stop. If it was an all-way stop, then the warrants would be invoked, okay? And, where are you going to, like the traffic count is like 500 cars per hour or 150 cars per hour on the side street. But if it's not an all-way stop, okay, it would only be a 3-way stop, adding a stop sign to the eastbound lane, then those warrants are not invoked, okay, and you can get around them. Likewise, a similar thinking could be applied to the intersection of Kimberly Drive. If you move the stop sign from the westbound lane to the eastbound lane, now you don't have an all-way stop. I mean, if those warrants were invoked for all-way stops, a multi-way stop, okay, it'd be hard to put any stop sign down because you can't have more than one. 2 stop signs is a multi-way stop intersection, okay. I think the guidelines that are quoted, and they're MUTCD Chapter 4C warrants, none of the 8 warrants are, all right, Though the warrants are for traffic signal installations, the same criteria are used for all-way stops. And that condition is consistent in all three of Bill Boardman's letters that I received from him. So I think there's an opportunity to put the stop sign in, at River Heights anyways, without creating a liability to the town if someone has an accident there. I mean, someone's going to have an accident in the snow at stop signs. You have a stop sign at the bottom of Torrey Road. This is a steep hill, and you have to come to a stop. The only difference is there you have to turn. Here, where we're asking, you could turn or you continue straight. So there is an opportunity there that I think the town could consider. I know the chief and Mr. Schock both have an issue with the 6-degree grade coming down to Kimberly Drive. So, I can see that, but, the burden to coming to a stop is on the person following the car. If the car in front of you stops, you're supposed to stop. Okay? You can't be blaming the town because you failed to stop, or you were going too fast, or not maintaining an adequate distance for the conditions of the road. So I wanted to point out those differences. I think there is an opportunity to make an improvement here, especially in the sidewalks. There's a lot of interest, not only in South Kingston, but in Narragansett, and there seems that there should be a reasonable way to make some kind of a physical improvement to the street.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have anybody else from the public who would like to come up to speak tonight? Okay. Seeing none, any other comments here from the table?
I just wanted to point out this weekend was the Wakefield Village Association Oktoberfest downtown, and as I mentioned to the chief, everybody from the police details to our partnership with the Parks and Rec Department in their Falls Festival that they did for the children over in Saugatucket Park. It was a huge success, and so many people from the community came out. And it's just so great to see, the sense of community so strong, especially in downtown. Certainly not a requirement to work with the Wakefield Village Association in this role, in this capacity, but it's a great way to engage with our local businesses and our people that are downtown and see what their struggles are, what their successes are, and how we can best support them. So kudos to the Wakefield Village Association. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Kenny Burke and his contributions to that group and the work that he does. It's just phenomenal to see that, and so grateful for them and for all they do. So we're very lucky to have them, and thank you to the Parks and Rec Department for everything that they did for us, and to Chief Jaber for the details.
Great, thank you. I also want to note that we don't want to slight anybody here at the council, but October 17th, we've got invites to 4 events, which we possibly cannot be at all of them. I know, Chelsea, one of them is yours with the planning department, and we also have the event at the senior center. We also have the facility study with the school department, and we also have the land trust reception for the Whaley Farm. We just physically can't be at 4 events all at the same time in one evening. So we're not trying to slight anybody. We just have to make the priority in terms of where we will spend our time. So I just wanted to put that out there. I didn't want anybody to think that we weren't supporting any events. It just so happens that 4 of them are happening on the same day.
Meg, I forgot one thing. I'm sorry. If I could just...
Sure, absolutely.
I didn't get a chance to mention this during the work session because we went right up into the meeting. But there was recently a letter to the editor in the Independent and the Narragansett Times about the town manager search. And it was from a citizen that was here, that participated at the meeting, and felt a little discouraged by the process and didn't think that there were many opportunities for the public to engage. And I was just curious if maybe the council wanted to send a letter in to the paper just offering all the opportunities up for engagement, encouraging people to, stay tuned to the website and our social media presence to sort of...
Was that the letter from Mark Layden?
Nope, Mark Levitt.
Yeah, Levitt, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Just to say, you know, we are open to input and we're available and we want to engage. I think that would be a great, you know, sort of counter to say, hey, you know, we are listening. We did hear you. We're not really in a place right now to take a bunch of action. So,
But just so that all of you know, and for the public record, the search process continues till October 18th. And it might go a day or two longer, if you will. At that point in time, the consulting firm will engage with all of the council members, those candidates that they feel are qualified, that are worthy of an interview. But I believe at the same time, we will get a list of all candidates who have applied. At that point, I think it will be to our discretion to make a decision where we will move forward with that in terms of public interaction, things of that nature, or how exactly that's going to be weeded out. But that's something that we will determine, again, once we receive input from the consulting firm. Unless, Steve, you've heard anything further, you may not have. I'm not sure.
Now, there is a soft closing on the applications for October 18th. When I say soft, it's a case where the initial review by the consultant will start after that date with a review of everything that's on file. If another application comes in that he feels council would need to see as a priority, he would deal with that. I think the council's schedule was the first week in November for meeting with the consultant.
Friday, the first Friday in November.
I mean, it'll go from there, but certainly anyone who has input into the process or wants to have interest into the process has the opportunity to correspond directly with the consultant, and we certainly have that information available on the website as far as the brochure for the position as well.
Thank you, Steve. If there are no other further comments, you do?
Well, Councilwoman Gledhill mentioned responding to the letter with a letter of our own. I don't know if we discussed that.
yeah, I mean, I would be happy to write something and send it to Steve, and if he wanted to pass it along to the council, just talking about all the opportunities that there are to engage and kind of directing people to, you know, the avenues. Or if staff wanted to write something, I just thought it'd be nice if the council sort of said, well, we hear you, we see your concerns, and here's all your chances to participate.
With all due respect, I have no difficulty with staff drafting that, but it should go under the council president's signature if the council wishes to have that letter sent out. I can have Dale do the drafting on that, send it to the council, and council can then approve it, and then we can submit it to the newspapers. I won't participate in drafting anything involving that. I have not been involved in that process, nor do I think I should.
Of course not. I wasn't implying that you should. I
think if there is a response, it should go hand in hand with the meeting that we had with the consultant, how he explained the process, and with public input. I know I unfortunately was not able to attend, but I did watch the presentation, and he did make some comments about the public. I don't know if we absolutely as a group need to respond to him directly, but if there needs to be a response and I need to be responsible for a signature, I certainly will step up and do that, absolutely. But
you can do it either as a letter. You could also ask Dale to place a block ad that would indicate this is the address of the consultant that's working for the town council. If there's any specific information that people feel would be important to the process, that they should submit it, and it'll give both an email address and a mailing address. You do it any number of ways. That's your choice. I'm not going to give you recommendations.
I don't think that's even something we can take a vote on unless we collectively, because it's not on the agenda specifically. So that's... So if we refer to Dale, then can Dale and I have a conversation about that at a later date, or does it have to include the rest of the council? Because I don't want to violate any open meetings or... Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Okay.
I'm satisfied with the discussion. I don't need any more details.
I'm satisfied. Okay. Okay, moving on, town managers report.
I have nothing further to add than the items that were presented over the last 3 weeks.
Steve, can I ask for an update on the trash can situation that we have been hearing about for Main Street?
The purchase order's been let for, I think, the first cans, and delivery period's probably 3 to 4 weeks, if I recall.
Great, awesome.
And nothing else? If not, moving on to the town solicitor's report. Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to item number 12, appointments. Are we going to make any appointments tonight, or do we want to further discuss?
I would like to further discuss, but
Can we discuss now?
sure.
I mean, I think we interviewed 3 very qualified applicants for the Housing Authority earlier tonight. I think I would make a resolution in support of James Thompson, personally. I felt like he brings sort of that, just a lot of qualifications to this position that would be really useful at this time to the Housing Authority Board.
I think one of the things I liked about him a lot was the fact that he had worked through DCYF and has been through struggles with folks and helping them right their way. The other thing, you know, I liked about him was the fact that he's been involved for a long time, it seems, with other organizations trying to better society and help.
I'll second Abel's resolution with a couple of comments. As I said after the interviews during the work session, that this is a very difficult decision because we had 3 very good candidates, and I would be happy with any of them, but unfortunately we have to make a choice. I certainly could support James.
So, Joe, one of the things I think we all were going back in our minds was like, can we have 3 people added?
Yeah.
And, you know, 2 of you asked that question, and it was, I think, in the back of all of our minds because they were all willing to help, and they're all well qualified.
Yeah.
They are well qualified, and perhaps we should take an opportunity to look at some of the other boards that still have some vacancies where their talents could be well utilized. I also was very impressed with James Thompson, not only with his resume, but his local experience as well and his family experience as well. And I think his desire, his drive, and his willingness to want to get involved here in Wakefield where he does live, he spoke to that tonight. And to me, that said a lot. But you have 2 other candidates who are absolutely capable of filling that position or any position. So should we choose one of them, I would certainly recommend that we look at the other 2 for placement on another committee.
Yeah, I'm in agreement, too. I thought James was an excellent candidate, and he'll be a valuable asset to the Housing Authority. Dale, do you happen to know when the next vacancy on the Housing Authority is? Okay. Well, I hope that the other 2 candidates will keep their applications on file for a year, correct? Yeah. I hope that they'll be around when the next vacancy comes up because just excellent candidates.
Yes.
So I think we have a second, right?
We have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor of appointing James B. Thompson to fill that affordable
Housing Authority.
Housing Authority, I'm sorry, opening?
Aye.
Take the vote, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Congratulations to Mr. Thompson. And Dale, I'm sure you'll be notifying him of his appointment. Thank you. Moving on to item 13B, a resolution authorizing the town manager to negotiate the project contract term and interconnection costs and subsequently execute contracts and land leases with Kearsarge Energy of Watertown, Massachusetts for on-site virtual net metering services, and as further described in a memo from the Public Services Director, John Schock, to the town manager on October 5th.
As indicated in John's memorandum, back in December of 2015, Council authorized a conditional award with Kearsarge Energy for the on-site virtual net metering energy program. At this point, we will lease space at the Rose Hill landfill, the West Kingston Town dump, and the URI parcel that had been part of the Superfund site, and we'll see a solar farm created that will generate about 8.6 megawatts per hour of power. The contract that we're looking at requires no capital costs or operating costs on behalf of the town or any of the regional partners, being URI and Narragansett. The term is a 20-year term within the contract. What we're asking for tonight is authorization to execute a contract, but also authorization for the manager to be able to continue negotiations in an attempt to extend the contract from a 20-year to a 25-year term, which would mean additional revenue income over that 5-year period, estimated at about $1.5 million. Again, as I indicated in the pre-session, the numbers that we're providing you this evening are based on a cost when the charts were prepared of 12.6 cents per kilowatt. That is going to fluctuate month to month or year to year over the term of the contract. So we can't give you an exact value for what the energy savings will be for the town, but they will be considerable in the area of potentially between town and school, almost $6 million over that term. Kearsarge will retain 75% of the energy credits that are produced by the solar farm. The remaining 25% will stay with the regional partners. The beauty of this project is that URI has agreed to serve as a backstop for South Kingstown and Narragansett. Backstop meaning that we can commit 100% of our energy uses for the next 20 years to this program rather than having to commit only, let's say, 70%. Without the backstop, we would have negotiated a 70% commitment of our energy market, energy use. We're able to go to 100% because if, in fact, we see declining use of energy because we buy streetlights and put LEDs in place, because we've become more energy efficient in our building managements or in the school department itself, we'll be able to reduce our energy consumption without losing or having a requirement for more energy dedicated to the program where we would actually have to pay back to the solar company. So we've got those provisions in place with the backstop. We're also, I want to also make reference to the fact that the EDP contract, which is a second off-site virtual net metering system, is part of that overall $6 million that we're anticipating over the 20 to 25-year period. One of the other things that's important is that we will be able to get, in the first 10 years, the renewable energy credits will stay with Kearsarge. In the second 10 years, they will reside with the regional partners. That means that we would be able to commit those to show that South Kingstown is 100% green energy bound, or we could use a portion of those to further reduce what our energy consumption cost would be over that over the life of the contract. Negotiating from the 20 to 25 years is important for us because the cost of interconnect associated with the URI site is higher than what had been presented in the bid documents. someone's going to have to pick up the difference there. What we're attempting to do is to negotiate between what the cost of the actual interconnect will be to the amount that was budgeted for that purpose to come up with a conclusion. By extending the contract term for the 5 years, a good portion of that, we believe, should be able to be expensed. So we're asking for that approval. The last item that's important here is that we have agreed to not charge any property tax associated with the personal property ownership by the solar companies at any of the 3 sites. By not charging them, we're increasing the value of what the retained earnings will be from 17.5% to 25%. When the state changed the methodology for personal property taxes on energy, green energy equipment, what we saw is a substantial reduction in what the potential would be from a property tax. And since we had bid the contract with 2 options, we're going to exercise going with no property tax and taking the higher credit. That will also return a major increase in terms of the potential income for the project. If there's questions, I'll be glad to answer it. If not, I'd ask the council to approve the resolution as presented. One last comment is that we're anticipating that the solar farms will be installed and ready to begin producing energy probably in the 3rd quarter of calendar 18. The EDP site, which isn't a part of this resolution this evening, is also anticipated to be able to go online starting sometime in the 3rd quarter of calendar 18. So we see both of these programs moving forward within the next 12-month period. One other element that we've already approved is that we will have the energy consultant that has worked with us over the past 2.5 years will be responsible for the accounting methodology and the monthly billing reimbursements from National Grid, both to the solar contractor and to the town and to the school department. The cost of that will be in the area of about $350 a month for that service, which is a small, it's about 1.125% of the total retained earnings that we will receive under the contract.
Steve, that 350 he'll account for the schools and for the municipality?
That's correct. It's $350 for both. Any questions, I'd be glad to answer it. If not, the other thing I do want to say is I want to provide direct recognition of the work that John Schock has done on this contract negotiation, both on this one and with the EDP contract. He's been the lead in terms of dealing on behalf of the collaborative itself with the 3 regional partners. He's been the lead in dealing with the energy consultant and the direct negotiations with each of the 2 solar companies. So I want to recognize those services. Certainly, there's been a lot of people involved on behalf of the 2 communities and URI, but the leadership was through John, and he deserves a lot of credit for the program that we've been able to develop.
Thank you, John.
With an electric bill, okay, only about half the bill is for the electricity used. The other half is maintenance of the distribution network, all of those other bells and whistles, okay?
That's correct.
How does the town recover that? How does the town accommodate National Grid for those other expenses?
We're only dealing, we will be paying the same cost that anybody else would be paying on the transmissions. What we're talking about is the amount of energy that we are using in all of our different buildings. So that doesn't touch the energy cost associated with transmission, which is a part of the bill. This is only dealing with the cost of energy, which is the supply itself.
So you can sell extra energy back to the network to pay for those costs?
That's correct. What happens here is that National Grid is getting the power from the solar farm itself. Once it receives the power, it gives us a credit back based on the energy that we've consumed. They give us their normal bill, but they give us a check equal to the total amount that's within the contract itself. That will fluctuate based on what the cost per kilowatt is on a month-to-month basis for that energy itself.
Thank you for taking the time to explain that.
There are programs available for residential homeowners as well, sir. I recommend searching the Office of Energy Resources website to find out more information.
We've just agreed, and we're one of 3 communities that will be with Solarize Rhode Island for the second time. And we had a great deal of success. I think our final numbers were about 43 units, residential structures. Average price was probably around $25,000 in commitment. And with the state program and the federal program that was available, actual out-of-pocket would amounted to about $17,000 to $18,000. Buybacks are different based on the energy that could be produced. A lot of that depends on the type of trees, the location of the house, its proximity to the direct sun. But we've seen a great deal of program participation, and we expect that we'll see additional participation as we go forward. What we've also told people is that if they are not interested in the capital outlay of dollars for solar purposes, there are companies that will come in and rent your roof and pay for the cost of the solar equipment, and will give you a portion of the savings, which is almost like a roof lease. So there are different options for different people based on economic conditions that they have. But we are seeing that that program has been well received, and we hope to continue to see us stay as a leader in the state with that program.
Make a motion to approve item 13B.
I'll make a second with a comment. You know, I'm famous for saying nothing moves slower than government. We've made some tremendous strides here in what I consider a very short period of time, and want to recognize staff for all the work that's been done.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any oppositions? Seeing none, motion carries. At this point, I think we are done with the agenda. The time is 8:32. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I ask you guys to turn off your microphones, and I just want to say something?